I still think that they like Asamoah and that he will be a part of this defense. I think Ivan Pace Jr. really made a strong case for himself to play as much or more than Asamoah.
Let's get a little bit conspiratorial here for a little bit. After looking over the Vikings 53-man roster announcement the other day, something I noticed was a little bit peculiar about how they were listing things on their official announcement on their website. A semicolon broke up the starters, what you would presume the starters, and the backups. And that leads to some interesting revelations. First off, congrats Kyrus Tonga for apparently being a starter on the Vikings defensive line. But also, more interestingly, Brian Asamoah is listed as a starter ahead of camp sensation Ivan Pace. So that leads me to the question, am I reading too much into this? Most likely yes. But also, is Asamoah, despite missing much of camp, set to be the starter on week 1 against Tampa Bay?
Can we call this grammar gate? Is that what we're going with here?
Sure, why not?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if semicolons are the difference maker here. Usually, any sort of depth chart is unofficial almost always, especially preseason or before we get into the season. It is unofficial, and usually depth chart is just formed by how much everyone plays, and then we all figure it out from that. Who starts and then what their snap counts are. But the question about Brian Asamoah is relevant because he missed a good portion of training camp, and Ivan Pace was given a huge opportunity to emerge during that time that Asamoah was away. And I still think that they like Asamoah and that he will be a part of this defense. And that was the plan from the outset, was for him to be the starter next to Jordan Hicks. He is a skilled player. He's got great speed, great explosiveness. You saw the fumble that he caused last year against New York. I mean, that's the type of play that they're looking for from him. But also, I mean, it really stuck out to me that with Ivan Pace Jr., they gave him the green dot in some of the preseason games, which means that he was the one calling the defense. And that's not something you see from an undrafted free agent, even in a preseason game, but as a starter in the preseason game doing it. That really stood out. I think that they like his football intelligence. They like the aggression that he plays with. And I would guess that there's a role for both of these guys on this defense, maybe in different packages. How much of a role is the question? I think Ivan Pace Jr. really made a strong case for himself to play as much or more than Asamoah. But one thing about Brian Flores that deviates, I think, from what we saw from previous regimes, I mean, Mike Zimmer would use third down packages that were a little bit different from the base packages, but it was usually the same players in the same rotations all the time. And I think with Brian Flores, there's going to be a ton of mixing and matching. It was not maybe by mistake that they have 6 safeties on the team. I think they like to have guys try to fit in their best roles. And when you look at the past in Miami, you see tons of that. You see tons of guys being used very differently. And I saw Miami released one of the players recently that was key under Brian Flores, like that was a safety. And I think he was key because Flores used him in the right way. And so you'll probably see that from a lot of players in this defense. And Ivan Pace Jr. and Brian Asamoah could benefit from that.
That's been another Purple Insider Extra for Bring Me the Sports. Be sure to rate, review, and subscribe to the Purple Insider Podcast wherever you get your podcasts. Talk to you next time.